All right, Algebra 2, so today's Friday, and we're going to get you wrapped up on this whole solving with these rational exponents. I want you to have your 7.5 practice A out. We're going to just discuss what your answers should have been on 1 and 10. If you didn't get those answers, find a neighbor and see what they got. The next thing we're going to do is you should have a pink paper, and we're going to be making our note card. This is our 4th note card. On the test, you may use the 4 note cards. You will be turning them in. So if you're missing any of the 4 note cards, you need to ask your neighbor to borrow theirs. I have some extra note cards up on the desk where I normally am. And take a picture of theirs and get that written down. So you should have for 7.1. On the other side was 7.2. We have 7.3. Remember, there's the back, but we added a little bit more. Let me just show you 7.2 again. So I guess you could pause the video and copy it. And then 7.1, pause the video and copy it. We have, 7.4, which I have loaned all my out, actually. Well, hold on. Yeah, so I don't have my 7.4 right now, so you'll have to get that. And then this pink page will be the 4th note card. If you want to leave it whole, otherwise you could, fold it and cut it in half and shape it down more to a note card. So that's up to you. Anyway, we're going to start and go over this, and let's go. So first, your answers that you should have had on number 1, you should have had -6. And on number 10, your answer should have been 5 and 1, and 5 is extraneous because of our whole domain issue there. So if you didn't get those answers, find someone who did and work with them and see what they got. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this blue page in addition to help us get through this final note card. So we're going to start with this one. You're going to use this side of the note card when you have a fraction equaling a fraction. That would be like our first 4 problems here. And the first step you're going to do is check your domain. And remember, you just check domain in the denominator. I don't know what I did. Anyway, we'll call it step 1.5. Now what you need to do is cross multiply, which just means if you have a fraction, like over here, AB equaling CD, that you'll do this crisscross multiplying so that when you're done, you're going to have A times D equaling B times C. Not adding these, multiplying them. So your second step will be to multiply, maybe you have a little bit more multiplying than just a simple, number times a number, and combine like terms. And then you're going to solve for x. And basically at this point, we have either been factoring. If you really don't like to factor, remember, on sometimes you can do the quadratic formula. Or if you can't factor, then remember you're just getting x by itself. Okay? And then when you get your final answer, just check for those extraneous solutions against your domain. So let's start with, and let's do number 3. So first thing is just check my domain. I don't want to pick -1, and I don't want to pick 5. So just a little side note, don't pick -1 and 5. Step 1.5, cross multiply. So I'm going to do -3 times this, and I'm going to go ahead and just write down that, and then do the actual multiplying in a little bit. And then I'll do x plus 1 with the x minus 5. From there, I'm going to do my multiplying. I'm on step 2 and combining those like terms. So I'm going to distribute the -3 in. And then this is where I tell my freshmen, neighbors visiting neighbors, so I get x squared minus 5x. Then I get 1x minus 5. And then I'm going to combine like terms. So at this point, nothing to combine on the left, but the right can become this. And now I'm ready to start. I notice I have more than one type of x, so I'm going to bring everything to one side so that I can factor. Leave your highest power as positive, the one that would be in front of it. Don't move that over here. It does mess with your factoring. So first I'm going to add 3x to this. That gives me -1x. And then I'm going to subtract 15 to over here, and that's going to turn that -5 into -20. This is simple factoring, but just a reminder, you guys, when you factor, sometimes you don't make the x. Sometimes it is just a greatest common factor or a difference of squares. Anyway, factors of 20 that get me to -1 are 5 and 4. And I'm going to be making the 5 negative. And now just what makes these 0 are 5 and -4. And when I compare these to my domain issues, my no list, that would make 5 extraneous. Okay? So let's go to 7, the top part, and go through this. So first, add the opposite. That's, again, if there's subtraction between fractions. So none of these problems have subtraction between fractions. And again, you do this when you have several fractions, but you do need to factor your denominator. Don't forget your domain issues. You're going to find that least common denominator. Some of you still need to do this, and that's totally fine. It's better to take a little longer and get the problem right. Then you're going to multiply the numerator, only the numerator, by each term or fraction, in each term or fraction by the entire least common denominator. So you're going to write that LCD above every fraction. And what will happen is you're going to cancel out those common factors. You're going to cross them out. And when you cross them out, it's going to get rid of the denominator. So at this point, you're just going to have a lot of stuff left in the numerator. It should say numerator, not numeration. And that means you're going to be multiplying and, again, combine like terms. And then solve for x, maybe, these options down here. And then don't forget to check for those extraneous solutions. So we're going to pick problem down below. And I think we're just going to do number 9. This doesn't have a fraction or a denominator, so I'm going to make that. So first, there is no add the opposite. My domain issues, was that my second step here? Oh, no, factor. So I can't factor this. You can't factor 1, can't factor x, so there's no factoring. And my least common denominator is x and x minus 3. So if you don't see that, x minus 3 would get a column. Fraction 2, the 1 doesn't need a fraction, but then the x would get a column. And when you bring those all down, there's your least common denominator right here. So what I'm going to do now is, now that I found the least common denominator, I'm going to multiply step 5. I'm going to multiply the numerator in each fraction by that entire LCD. So I'm going to multiply this one by x and x minus 3 on, x and x minus 3 on top, x and x minus 3 on top, x and x minus 3 on top. And what's going to happen is you're going to cancel out the common things from the top and the bottom. And when you do that, it'll get rid of the denominator. So this x minus 3 is getting rid of this, so you're left with x and x minus 2. Unfortunately, all of this is going to be left because 1 doesn't go away. So you're going to be left with 3x and x minus 3. And then in this one, this x here is going to take out this x, and you're left with 2x and x minus 3. So now that I have no more denominator, I'm just going to multiply and combine like terms. My battery's running low, so I got to zip through this. So I get 3x squared minus 9x. And then I get 2x squared minus 6x. I am noticing many different types of x's. That means I'm going to factor. So I'm just going to combine some like terms. Over here I get 4x squared. And when I combine my x's, I get minus 11x. And then bring everything to one side. Leave, again, you want that to be positive. So I'm going to subtract this one to over here. And I'm going to add this one to over here. And now we're not going to factor like we did up here. This is a greatest common factor. And out of both of these, I can take an x, and then I'm left with 2x minus 5. And then those are my factors, and I want to see what makes that 0 and what makes that 0. So what makes that 0 is 0. There's one answer. And what makes this 0, I'm going to add 5 and divide by 2 and get my 2.5. Okay? So those are my two answers. Now, are either of these in my domain issue? Well, I didn't do that yet. I should have done that. I wouldn't pick 3, and I scribbled it out. I wouldn't pick 0. So 0, yeah, that is here as well. So that makes this one an extraneous solution. Okay? So I guess wrapping this up. What you should have done today was part of the warm-up, that final review packet, your note card and this, and now what you're going to get started on is 7.5. And if you give me just a moment, I got to run and grab my charger, and I will be giving you a little bit of information on this. So I'm going to pause it and be right back. Okay, so hi, continuing on, I got my charger. So first you can cross off problems 6, 9, and 10. And the next thing I'm going to do real quick, because I don't have a lot of battery, I just charged it enough, is I'm going to give you the answers. So on 7.5, practice B, when you're done, number 1, the answer is going to be -8. On number 3, the answers are going to be 0 and -1/3. On number 5, if you want to quickly jump to number 5, circle it. You're going to get more than one type of x, and what I'm going to need for you guys to do is, you won't be able to factor it. You're going to have to do the quadratic formula. So up here, what I'm going to do is just give you those final decimal values that you get from the quadratic formula. And I'm going 3 decimal places. Okay. Let's see, number 7. Number 7, your answer is going to be 8. And number 8, the answer is going to be 6 and 1. Now, this does not account any extraneous solutions. Some of these might be and will be extraneous solutions, so just keep that in mind. So just to get you started, again, when you use your pink paper, this is the fraction equal fractions, so you can go into cross products, so you don't need to worry about factoring anything. This one you'll do the quadratic formula. This one, the other classes had a tough time seeing the least common denominator, so you can't add the opposite. I'm just going to talk to you about the least common denominator. So you can't factor this or this or this. So since I'm not doing this, I'm going to put this here, and you can just watch. You don't necessarily have to write this down. So x plus 3 is going to get a column, x plus 2 is going to get a column, and then the 5 is going to get a column. And if you bring everything down, all of this is your least common denominator. So remember, you'll need to multiply each fraction by the entire least common denominator. So that's for my first fraction. And here's for my second fraction. And here's for my last fraction. And again, the idea is that the stuff in the numerator is going to make the denominator go away. So the x plus 3s are going to make those go away. Doors open. And I'm left with 5 and 6, which is just 30. Multiply those, and x plus 2. And then when you go to this fraction, the x plus 2 will take that x plus 2. So you're left with 5 and x. And then the x plus 3. And then when you go to your last one, the 5 will take out the 5. And so you're left with quite a bit. Sorry, it's going to go into this. You're going to be left with the 4, the x plus 2, and the x plus 3. So let me just kind of draw a big line separating those. So, you'll do your distributing here. With the 3 things to multiply this first, and then once you get that cleaned up, then bring the 4 in. But again, you won't be able to factor it. You're going to have to do the quadratic formula. And the other one that the class, yesterday's group, had a tough time seeing the least common denominator is this one. It's actually 8x. And so, you don't think you can factor it, but you can factor the 4 into 2 and 2 and x. You can factor the 8 into a bunch of 2's, and you can factor this, well, we just saw it. So if you made your fraction table, and fraction 1 always gets its own columns, 2, 2, and x. This one, the 2 and the 2 would join columns, but then I needed a whole nother column for the other 2, and then this can join this. So if you bring everything down, and you think that everything's multiplied, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, and x. So then go through 8x, 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 and then, when you're looking at what will cancel out, 8x divided by 4x, well, the x's just cancel out, but 8 over 4, you'll just be left with a 2. And then this isn't 2 plus 3, you'll multiply them, and what will be left from the first fraction is 6. So that gets you going. You've got the answers. Help one another out. And if you have time, think about doing that mile marker today. There are some. You can maybe, if there's time on the day of the test, you can do it when I'm here next week on Thursday or Friday, whenever we see each other. And that's it. I hope you guys have a good week.